downloaded the Buckeye Leafcast with your host, Andrew T. Evans, with special guest, Chris Stefanick.
All right, sweet. All right, I'm recording. You recording?
Sweet. Yes, sir. Does that mean we're ready to go?
I'm ready when you are.
La 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 me. That's me warming up my crappy voice. Because when I do the Buckeye Leafcast with my man, the intergalactic Buckeye fan himself, Mr. Chris Stefanick, I have got to be able to be in perfect pitch sounding form. Because when I am talking to the man, the myth, the legend of Ohio State football fandom, I got to sound as good as possible, and it's still never enough to come close to matching the one and only Buckeye fan, the intergalactic Buckeye fan himself, Mr. Chris Stefanick. Ladies and gentlemen, it's another edition of the Buckeye Leafcast. I'm your host, Andy Evans, and of course, he is the intergalactic Buckeye fan, Mr. Chris Stefanick. Sir!
Mr. Evans.
What's going on?
Well, just trying to live up to your intros, man. That takes all my energy just to do that.
Well, when I am introducing the super fans such as yourself, I mean, I really have to try and kind of come up with witty ways each time to you know, getting you out there. But I just don't think that I can ever live up to you and who you are, and just the spectacularness of you breaking down Ohio State football games. It's impossible to try and live up to your greatness, sir. And I'm just as the saying goes, it's like I'm just a squirrel living in your world, baby, trying to get that nut. You know what I'm saying?
You're so kind.
Oh, man. Well, sir, let's talk about a big Buckeye win on Saturday night, walking into Lincoln, Nebraska. And Buckeyes just, once again, Chris, showing dominance, dude. 56-14 final score. Our boy JT, yes, 27-33, 325 yards through the air. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, runs the ball another 10 times for 57 yards, and 2 more scores, meaning 7 touchdowns responsible for, tying his own record for single-game touchdowns responsible for, which he set earlier this year. J.K. Dobbins, the true freshman from Texas, 12 carries, 107 yards and a score. 8.8-yard rushing average. Mike Weber actually led the team with carries, had 18 of them for 86 yards, however, unable to find the end zone. And, lots of guys catching footballs. KJ Hill leads the team, 7 catches, 80 yards, 2 scores. Marcus Ball, Terry McLaurin, Rashad Berry, all with touchdown catches as well. Pretty much just, once again, Chris, a dominant performance by Ohio State. And, your prediction last weekend, 45-20. Mine was 45-13. Were you expecting Ohio State to go in there and put 56 points on the board? I certainly wasn't, but I'm not necessarily surprised either. So, lay it on us, brother. Lay it on me. Give us the good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between that you saw from Saturday night's game against the Cornhuskers.
Well, I believe what I said last week is that Ohio State was going to embarrass Nebraska. I believe I said that. I hope that was on the air.
Yes, you did.
Okay,
yes,
right.
Yes.
I know I said that to you, and I'm like, was that when we were on the air or when we were off the air? Because, it's just like living in a dream when I'm talking with you. So I don't even know where I'm at sometimes. But
shucks.
But yeah, if going into Saturday, I would have said to you, Andy, that for every drive that the starters were in the game, Ohio State was going to score a touchdown. Would you feel pretty good about how the game was going to go?
I would not have felt bad in the least had you made that prediction and it come true, which was the case.
Yeah, I mean, just wow. I mean, first 8 drives, all touchdowns, and the first time that they did not get a touchdown is when the backups were in. And just dominant. I mean, dominant. That was, you know what it was to me? I'm like, I was watching the game and I said to myself, this is the best they've looked since 2014.
Yeah.
This is like the JT of 2014, maybe even a little better than the JT of 2014. That guy that was getting Heisman votes, the guy that had us all excited. It had us all like pulling our hair out when he went down versus Michigan,
Yep.
And I'm like, my God, how bad of quarterback coaches, how bad of offensive coordinators were,
Ed Warner and Tim Beck.
Oh my God, yeah, I know. I'm trying to block it out, but I'm like, it's just, I think I think that
I can understand why.
Yeah, I mean, I think it took a while for my God, this is just again, I'm drawing blanks over here for Kevin Wilson and Ryan Day to get the bad habits out of JT to undo the damage that was done to him and get him back to just what he was as a freshman,
Right.
And I think it's finally starting to happen now. I will say that Nebraska is not a great football team.
No.
Are they going to do this the next time they take the field? I don't know. One thing I will say is the protection has been awesome. Since the Oklahoma game, it's been really, really good, and it was continued to be good against Nebraska. Now, there's two ways to look at that. One way is, hooray, the offensive line is starting to get their mojo back. Granted, keep in mind it's the competition, but it's better that they show protect versus these teams they're playing that aren't world beaters than not protecting versus teams that aren't world beaters, right? So there's that. The offensive line is looking much better. The other way you could look at it could be okay, well, when JT's under a little duress, how's he going to look? Because he was under duress versus Oklahoma, as I've said a few times this year, and looked terrible. And then all of a sudden the offensive line protects and looks great. So, is he going to be able to still play at a pretty decent level? Not obviously his level is going to drop a little bit if he's under duress, but is he still going to play good enough for us to win versus teams like Penn State, versus teams like Michigan, maybe hopefully, knock on wood in the Big Ten title game versus a Wisconsin kind of thing where, the offensive line isn't going to be able to keep him as pristine as they have been now. Because, I hate to remind people of this, but, last year Ohio State dominated the heck out of Nebraska, and that certainly didn't appear to help them too much when they lost 35-0 to Clemson. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
The level of competition does matter. But having said that, I mean, they look really good.
I'm going to, yes, excuse me, agree with you on most of that stuff. Let's take a step back and understand that these last four games, very winnable football games. These are games that Ohio State, should have won theoretically, right? Now, given what just happened this past weekend in college football, where a slew of upsets happened, and they were all ranked teams losing to unranked teams in quote-unquote winnable football games. As they say, that's why they play the game, so you never know what's going to happen against, they call it any given Sunday in the NFL. Well, in college football, obviously, you can call it any given Saturday or even any given Friday because a couple of the upsets happened on Friday night. So the fact that Ohio State, yes, they should have, quote unquote, should have won those football games. But, that's why they play the game. And I'm sorry, if you go out and you put up those kinds of points and putting up those kinds of numbers for 4 straight weeks, even against the Little Sisters of the Poor.
5 weeks. I mean, they did
5 weeks. Excuse me.
The Army was the one that they didn't break 50 points versus Army, but they still had 500 yards. So I believe it was 5 straight games with 500 plus yards as a school record.
Yep. Yes, it is.
And then 4 straight games with 50 plus points, and that ties a record. So
what they're doing right now, I mean, that is saying something.
Yeah.
So let's on the one hand say, well, okay, those were winnable games, but you know what, folks? Hey, that's tough to do. And a lot of teams this past weekend, number 2 Clemson, number 8 Washington State, number 10 Auburn, proved that not every game, even though you should win, are you going to win? And, an upset is very likely.
Sure.
And so the fact that Ohio State, is just they are looking in prime mid-season form right now. 6-1, undoubtedly. I don't know if the AP poll is out yet.
They're 6.
Okay, so it is out, and they are
At least-
sixth. So
Yeah, at least one of
they-
them is out. I don't remember which one, but do remember seeing that they were sixth in one of the polls. So I'm bringing it up.
Okay, I do have the AP poll pulled up, and indeed, yes, they are sixth, so they jumped up 3 spots. And, because of good fortune of teams ahead of them losing, they hop up 3 spots, but they are ahead of Clemson now, who fell 5 spots. Right ahead of Ohio State. In 5th place is Wisconsin, and then you've got Penn State right now currently sitting in 2nd place. So that is just going to be a huge matchup in 2 weeks, Chris. Huge matchup. But I digress. I get off the point here. Yes, Ohio State looking great, midseason form, like you just said, putting up all those stats, setting school records. And, oh, yeah, by the way, guess what they did last night as well, Chris? They won their 500th Big Ten Conference game.
Yep.
And guess who else won their 500th on the same day?
I don't know. Is there another team that has 500 wins in the Big Ten? I didn't think there was.
There is. Those smelly rodents from up north.
They still have a team?
Unfortunately, yes.
No, it's funny. Everybody likes to say that. Yeah, the meat chickens, they got their 500 win yesterday too, and I'm like, yeah, it only took them 6 seasons longer. Six, Andy, 6 seasons longer than Ohio State to do it. Michigan did it in 111. The good guys
did it in
105.
105.
105,
Yeah. See, all right. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah.
Smelly rodents fans. But yeah, it was just it's unbelievable to see. I don't want to say unbelievable, but I mean it's been quite a treat to see Ohio State right now playing at the level they're playing at. And to your point, this right now this season has a very 2014-esque feel. I don't want to jump too far ahead because obviously, yes, they've got a huge game in 2 weeks against Penn State, which really is going to be the indication of how good this football team is. I mean, let's face it. These have all been great tune-up games, and they've looked fantastic in these 5 games since losing at home to Oklahoma. But Penn State's really going to be that's going to be the game that's just going to separate the men from the boys. Period.
Right. Yeah. No, I can't wait. It's going to be really fun, and it's going to be a fun game to watch that Penn State Michigan game that's coming up this weekend while we've got an off week. So, and watch them beat each other up, and I'm pulling for Penn State to win that just because I want to have that victory over the number 2 team in the country, or if we lose, God forbid we lose, I want it to be to the number 2 team in the country, but yeah, no, I mean that's building up nicely. Just to cap our thoughts on what we were saying about the schedule that they played to this point. Those 4 top 10 teams fell to unranked opponents.
Yep.
Their opponents were combined 12-11 coming into Saturday. 12-11. So, you can look at Ohio State's schedule and be like, oh yeah, but they're not playing anybody, but they're this isn't like a lights out schedule, but you put Nebraska and Syracuse on a neutral field. What's the spread on that game? I mean, I guess after this weekend, I'm sure Syracuse is favored, but probably not by a lot.
Oh yeah.
Or Maryland versus the Syracuse, or Arizona State, or Cal.
I think Syracuse was like 3-2 or something going into that game against Clemson.
Yeah, at best they're like a medium.
Was like 2-3 or 3-2. I mean, yeah, none of them had, I think, less than 2 losses.
Yep. So, yeah. So, you can only play the team that's in front of you. And Ohio State, every week they're playing teams that it's like their Super Bowl. They're coming in completely jacked up. I mean, it's got to be hard for Ohio State to get jacked up for Nebraska, knowing that they have a bye week looming, knowing that after that is like Penn State, the team that beat them last year. Nebraska, meanwhile, is like, hey, this is our Super Bowl right here. This is, could be the best team we play all year. This is a team that embarrassed us last year. Man up. This is if you've got NFL aspirations, and you want to see how you can do versus NFL level talent, knowing that, just about every guy who starts for Ohio State's going to at least get invited to a training camp. You know what I mean? So this is your chance to show the NFL scouts how you can do playing against that kind of competition.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like teams don't have any problems getting up for Ohio State. Just like, if you're one of those teams in the top 10, week in, week out, the teams are getting up to play you, but it's hard for you to come in and be up every week like this team's doing, and you got to credit that to Meyer. The culture he's built there is they don't come out flat very often.
Unless it's against a very good team in Oklahoma who had to scramble back and beat a average Texas team in the Red River shootout or showdown or whatever you want to call it, the Red River rivalry. They don't want to call it a shootout anymore. But, we can't do that. We can't,
well, that's damn offensive, Andy.
Violence.
I can't believe you're even repeating those words now.
I know.
Where are the social justice warrior police to come and arrest you? Arrest this man at once. Come on.
I probably will. Yeah. Hey, come on over to Columbus, Ohio. Come see me. We'll chat. We'll have a talk. And then you can lead me away in handcuffs. So what do we make out of beating up on Nebraska, Chris? I mean, especially when it comes to JT, everything that he's been doing, all the games since Oklahoma, is this, a JT that, we have to tip our cap to and give credit where credit is due? Or, I still hear people saying, well, come on, folks, it's been UNLV, it's been, and, we just kind of alluded toward this a minute ago, but, still, I mean, JT, I mean, something's got to be said about the way he's playing right now, right?
Right. I mean, how many touchdowns without an interception the last 5 games? The last 5 games has been unreal numbers for JT with no interceptions. You can't say that about one Dwayne Haskins, who with much fewer pass attempts has interceptions. You know what I mean? Now, Dwayne Haskins has the better arm. He's got probably the better chance at making it on Sundays as well. Because
you're crazy to say, but yeah.
I mean, because you pretty much can't make it in the NFL without a cannon. And JT's, he's got like a mediocre college arm. You know what I mean? And that's a bad NFL arm. And it's sad to say, but he's probably looking at a good coach right there. Not a good NFL player. When he'll make his money from football, I think, but it's probably not going to be playing on the biggest stage. But having said that, you don't need that in college, and you do need to play at a high efficiency level. I don't know that it gets much higher efficiency level than what he's been playing lately, especially yesterday. I mean, my God. And I don't know that, you would see that from Dwayne Haskins. I really don't. I'm not at this point, despite the arm, there's more to it than that. I'm starting to become a believer that he's winning me over, that, I think this offense is better off with him in there, which is what the coaches have said the whole time. I mean, after Oklahoma, people were like, are you thinking about making a switch? And, no hesitation. Urban's like, no. Yeah. Are you freaking kidding me? No.
Yeah.
And we kind of question that, but, he knows these players better than we do. He sees them way more snaps than we see them play. And if Dwayne Haskins put Ohio State in a better chance to win than JT Barrett, don't you think he'd be out there? If that's what Urban Meyer believed.
And we've talked about that before, and you would think that, Urban might know what he's doing, when it comes to running a football team. I mean, so far I think his reputation precedes him in the number of national championships and just the number of games that he's won at Ohio State. I mean, God, they showed his record in the Big Ten right now. He's lost one frickin' true Big Ten game. Or I'm sorry, on the road.
Right.
So, yeah, he is. It's unbelievable. Like you just said, I mean, Urban Meyer, it's a credit to the culture that he has groomed. Not to say that he was really taking over a bad culture at all. I mean, let's face it, Jim Tressel wasn't too bad of a football coach either, you know. But did I say something else now that the police are going to have to come get me, the social justice police?
Oh, because
did you say who when you said Tressel? Or
No, I didn't say that.
oh, when I said Tressel's name, it sounded like you were like, who? Like being sarcastic,
Oh.
like,
No, I almost said, I'm like, at this point, you could make the argument that Tressel has a better resume at Ohio State, and at Ohio State, that is, not whole resume, but just since his time at Ohio State, that Tressel has done better than Meyer. I mean, Tressel had, I think, 7 Big Ten titles. Meyer's got 1. So
yeah,
even if Tressel, or I'm sorry, even if Meyer wins the Big Ten every year, going out, in his first 10 years, he will not have as many Big Ten titles as Jim Tressel. Now, if he ends up winning a couple national titles in that time, and versus Jimmy's only solo national title, that will put a different light on things. But to this point, I don't think it's hard to argue that Myers had a better career at Ohio State than Jim Tressel did. If you ask me.
And the Big Ten championship thing, that it's a little bit of a skewed stat, just because when Tressel was here, they didn't have the conference championship game. Yeah. So, winning, because he won, I believe.
I think it was 7.
I think like 4 of those were outright and 3 were shared or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So if they still did it that way, then, technically Urban Meyer last year would have split a Big Ten championship, right? With Penn State.
That's true.
So,
good point. And there was actually a year, one of Jim Tressel's years, where he won the Big Ten title. He quote unquote won it. He split it with Penn State, and while losing to Penn State that same year. So I remember that vividly, because one of my associates, who was not an Ohio State fan, not a Big Ten fan, but a college football fan, was just like giving me a gripe, because he's like, you can't call yourself the Big Ten champions. He's like, Penn State beat you, and I'm like, nope. They are co-champs along with it. He's like, no, they are the Big Ten champs. You are not. I'm like, sorry, dude. That's not what the record books say, my man.
Yeah. We both had the same record, so technically that's how it's going to go down as. But had they had the conference championship game during Tressel's years, would he be able to say, I've got 7 to my credit? I mean,
or if they just had that friggin' tiebreaker in the rules, where head to head was the tiebreaker, then Ohio State wouldn't be the champion either.
Yeah, if they'd done something like that, yeah, but they didn't, and Jim Tressel benefited by having as many Big Ten championships to his name, but nonetheless, still, I mean, yeah, Meyer, I mean, he's got this team playing like they're pros. I mean, every time you talk to the players after the game or something, and they say, no, we went out and we did our job, and we played our what our assignments were, and we just did our job, and that's what it is. It almost seems like, I mean, these kids, this is their job. It's not just a game to have fun. This is a job. They have a job to do every single Saturday, and they just go out and they do their job. They follow their assignments. They just do their job. And that is the culture that Urban Meyer has grown. And obviously right now you can't argue with the results. So JT Barrett, yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at his stats so far, and I mean, the dude's thrown for over 1,800 yards, 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, Chris, all stinking year. And it was in that Oklahoma game, but I mean, just one. So he 27 of 33 against Nebraska, 81% of his passes complete. I mean, and he threw for like 75% against Army, 70% against UNLV. Rutgers and Maryland, he was in the mid-60s. Oklahoma, worst game of the year, obviously. He threw 54%. And even Indiana, it wasn't great percentage at 57%. But second 300-yard game of the year. I mean, it's just, they were saying last night on the telecast that the one guy, Joel Klatt, I mean, he's like, folks, if JT Barrett continues to play like this, expect him to be sitting in a chair in New York and get an invitation. Right. And yeah, let's see what he does against Penn State. But gosh, man, right now I think he's playing as well as any other quarterback in the country. And you've sent me stats on his like national ranking, and I mean he's up there in quite a few categories nationally.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I thought I had those in front of me somewhere, but they're probably in my notes somewhere here. But I'm not seeing them at this moment. But yeah, he's getting it done. He's getting it done, and the whole offense I think is just gelling right now. I think maybe part of it is the new coaches, Kevin Wilson, Ryan Day, are maybe getting comfortable and getting able to get in a rhythm, calling plays. They know what works, what doesn't. It looks like they've implemented some plays that we've not seen before. So you saw a lot of 2 tight end sets, which I don't remember seeing a whole. You'd see it occasionally, but we're seeing a lot more of that. And they look like more like Kevin Wilson, Indiana plays, where you've got Rashad Berry, who's just a freaking physical beast, by the way. I mean, he looks like a freak out there. But Rashad Berry, they're lining him up in like an H-back, not Ohio State's H-back, the hybrid, but like the old H-back. When you used to say H-back, it meant like a hybrid between tight end and fullback, not a hybrid between wide receiver and running back. And they're using him in like that role as that kind of H-back where he's a lead blocker on these plays, which is pretty devastating. I mean, there's a reason why for, all of, Ohio State history, or at least since Woody, up until Urban Meyer, the eye was a staple of the program because it's pretty hard to stop, when you've got really good athletes and you go in that eye formation, you got a lead blocker. You're pretty much going to get, 3 yards every time at a minimum, and but the offense is working in different kinds of looks, and they're clicking. And you had some guys like the offensive line looking good. Demetrius Knox comes off the bench, maybe even like the third guy at right guard, because remember when Brandon Bowen went down, Matt Burrell was the guy who came in last week, and then apparently through the week Knox wins the job. He looked pretty good there.
And Urban was asked after the Maryland game, do you have a guy at right guard? He said, yep. You can tell us who? Nope. So I'm not sure why it was this huge secret that Demetrius Knox is going to be getting the start over Matthew Burrell. Maybe he knew and he didn't want to tell the players to, I don't know, maybe he didn't want to hurt Burrell's feelings or something. But, yeah, Matthew Burrell, he's part of that, thriving 2015 class that Meyer has spoken oh so highly of in the past. And, of course, that's sarcasm because they're the one class that Meyer's kind of called out to say that they need to pick it up and, really do some work. And, yeah, Matthew Burrell, he's just kind of getting left behind, But Demetrius Knox, I guess just working harder or putting forth more effort or something, or just a better player than Matthew Burrell. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd love to see the grading that they give these players. I wish they released that, how all the players are graded out, because it'd be interesting to see what the coaches think. But the best we get is that, were they a champion or not? I think it's tomorrow we'll hear from Meyer who were the players of the game and who were the champions. So I always kind of pay attention to how many championships, how many champions did like each offensive lineman get? Somebody should record that stat and be like, at the end of the year, Jamarco Jones led the team among offensive linemen with, 9 championship level performances. And
I'm sure somebody's probably there's got to be a journalist out there. Myself, no, I do not keep track of that stat, but there's probably somebody who does.
Right. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool to know. But yeah, to be honest, when this game started, I mean, not that I was worried about Nebraska, but the one thing I wanted to see was an improvement in special teams, and because it was just such a debacle.
After the opening kickoff
out of bounds, then they hold Nebraska to a 3 and out. Nebraska punts it. KJ Hill doesn't field the punt and it bounces like all the way down inside the 5. He could have got it at like the 30-yard line or something. Maybe it wasn't quite that bad, but so that was a big mistake. And then their second kickoff, that gets shanked. It was totally shanked. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then they hold him to 3 and out again. Punt return, there's a holding on the punt return. This is like we're 2.5 minutes into the game, and there was already like 4 mistakes on special teams.
Now, wait a minute.
Oh my God, here we go again. Are you kidding me? And then it kind of calmed down after that. But did you notice on kickoffs, they were doing squib kicks? Like several times they did squib kicks. Like, I don't know, at least I was like, Meyer doesn't have faith in the kicker's ability to put that, like, whatever you call it, like that pooch kick that he puts like inside the, it's supposed to be like within the 5-yard line basically, and he just didn't have faith with him because one of them, it's supposed to be on the left side of the field, right? And one of them, he kicked it off and it was way over to the right, and fortunately the coverage was there. But that's kind of a scary thing because he's counting on the coverage to keep containment on that left side of the field, so you only have to defend like the left side of the field, and the guy totally missed. He kicks one out of bounds to the left, and then another one goes like off to the right. So he shanked one. I'm wondering if he's like, until we get this figured out, I'm squibbing it.
I guarantee that's probably what he was thinking. It had to have been. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he says at tomorrow's presser, or if anybody even brings that up and asks him about it. Because, man, the opening kickoff, goes out of bounds, and it is, you're just kind of like, oh, my God. And they showed a shot of Meyer afterwards. The opening kickoff. And he's already hunched over, hands on his knees, just, this look of exasperation on his face, just like, you've got to be kidding me, son of a bitch. Not again. The opening friggin' kickoff, and Meyer's already, pissed off. But granted, the special teams, not as many woes as they had last week. But still, probably if there's one aspect of Saturday night's game against Nebraska, it would probably be the special teams would be the part you could probably pick on the most. And how about Tanner Lee, comes into this game having thrown 10 interceptions, dude. 10 picks in 6 games. And Ohio State did not pick him off yesterday. In fact, no sacks, only 1 tackle for loss for this defense yesterday. They, however, did get a very cheap interception at the end of the game, but that was from Nebraska's backup quarterback, O'Brien, who just kind of wung it up there towards the end zone. And true freshman from Cincinnati, Amir Reep, came down with the pick. That was cool to see for him. But otherwise, I was a little disappointed, I guess, that they really didn't get to Tanner Lee as often as I thought they might have been able to. They pressured him a lot, though. Don't get me wrong. They did pressure him quite a bit. But I don't know. I was a little disappointed to see that they weren't able to get at least 1 interception and a couple of sacks on him.
Right. Yeah, I thought they did pretty well. They were pressuring him, if not sacking him. The first downs alone it was 41-15 on first downs. 41-15. That was actually a record by most. That was the most first downs that Nebraska has ever given up to anyone.
And second most first downs in Ohio State history.
Was it really?
History.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
So, that the But 14 first, you hold the team to 14 first downs. You held them to 393 total yards. Most of that was passing. They held them just 44 yards passing, so 44 yards rushing. Just 2.8 yards per rush. They couldn't get anything going on the ground, and that was just, it's hard to really complain about a defense that only gives up 14 first downs or 15 first downs and 393 total yards. It's just.
I'm nitpicking a little bit, and I guess when Ohio State, when they have such a huge win, you almost are trying to kind of find things to I don't want to say talk negatively about, but critique, Right. I mean, every game is not perfect. There's always going to be something to break down a little bit and critique. But no, that's crazy. 41 first downs, the second most ever for a single game in OSU school history. Like you said, the most ever that Nebraska has ever allowed. And the defense did play great. I mean, they obviously played well enough to only allow 14 points, and did enough to fluster Tanner Lee all game long. Although, I guess maybe one other aspect we could kind of break down a little bit. I mean, Tanner Lee didn't have too bad of a game. 23 of 38, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns. Once again, no interceptions after having thrown 10 in the first 6 games. You would think he would have at least thrown a couple, but Ohio State didn't pick him off. And J.D. Spielman, true freshman for the Cornhuskers, 11 catches, 200 yards, and a 77-yarder for a score. So
yeah, he gets the award for most meaningless record ever.
Yeah. Wait, what record is that?
That was the most receiving yardage in Nebraska school history for a game, the 200 yards. And that J.D. Spielman was also nephew of one Chris Spielman, so an interesting little factoid to tie things together.
Yeah, if they do share the same genetic pedigree.
He does not share the same genetic pedigree. He was adopted.
Yes, I kind of figured as much.
But yeah, he doesn't exactly look like Chris Spielman. Let's just leave it at that. But
well, let's be honest. I mean, he's a black kid, and
Right.
Chris and Rick Spielman are white. And I mean, that's the truth. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But I mean, I know in
But
today's day and
calling
age,
somebody
you
black
don't want
is
to have the
racist.
social. You're right. You don't want to have the social police come knocking at your door
Right.
for saying something that is obviously a true statement. But
right.
But yeah, nonetheless, yeah. I mean, he's good. Boy, is he a good one. He's gonna be a real good one, man.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Definitely.
Well, I think that about wraps it up, Mr. Stefanick. So before we go, what else do the kind people out there need to know about what you got going on outside of just life in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a podcast. It's on personal development. It's called Choice Conversations. So it's about how you can improve your life in all areas, how you can find success in your relationships, financially, how to find your purpose and meaning and happiness in life, that sort of stuff, get your health better, improved, all of that kind of thing. So if that sounds interesting to you, come check it out, choiceconversations.com.
Right on.
Good.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it any better myself. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. The intergalactic Buckeye fan. Hit him up. Have a choice conversation with him anytime. It's also brought to you by Christie's Cleaning Services, LLC. It's not clean until it's Christie clean. Be sure to visit her Facebook page at Christie's Cleaning Services, LLC. And also brought to you by Columbus Wired for your premier source for Central Ohio sports and beyond. Check us out at columbuswired.net.
Big game, 2 weeks. We may talk to you next week. We may not. So if we do not talk, Chris, next week, certainly we're going to have a huge discussion in a couple Saturdays from now, and I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Let's leave them like we always do, sir. OH!
Hi-oh.
No box.